B12, I gotta shoot myself up with B12. I know B12 makes you feel really good. It's okay.
Yeah, there's one of them, the niacin.
Oh, it sounds like it's
We
good.
did that niacin.
Physician monitored?
No, I have a nutritional guru lady that, helps me line up with the diet. She also deals with psychological, emotional disposition as well. Knows how to press buttons. Okay. Yeah, so it was a combination. How much energy can be found and released with both of those changes. But yeah, I used to just eat anything I felt like eating any time, and it kind of weighed on me. So, okay. Let's see if I can fine tune this.
Scratch the whole thing and start over. Scratch the whole thing, eat anything I want.
Yeah, I have to watch my hunger things. I'm like, no. So I did have some bread pudding with Zenda the other day. And they make it out of their leftover croissants and the biscottis and put some pineapple in there. Oh, it was unbelievable. It's like, okay, if I'm going to cheat, I might as well do it like that. But I could feel it, definitely. The body had to work immediately. Are you on mine yet?
Mm-hmm.
That's not making noise.
That's all right. About 30,000 people out there. Happy to hear you.
Yeah. Cheering away.
Mm-hmm.
Or jeering.
Cheering and jeering.
You do ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
You do it so familiar.
Do you at the second time?
My husband took a couple lessons about their dancing.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer contra and mostly waltz or swing. Ballroom is too structured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does have that sort of, but I found once the body knows it well enough, it just moves on its own.
Oh, you have a good partner too.
We moved to California, so I haven't been dancing for months and months.
That's the thing with every fall about that you've got to have a partner that you dance with all the time.
Mm-hmm. And that school kind of requires that they don't mix and match. I mean, if you partner, you dance with your partner. Because I did ask him, I said, if there's any strays that are looking want to dance, let me know. It's not lucky.
All right, Mom, we're all friends here. Now's your chance. You can spin a good story and talk about your experience.
Spin the wheel, where it stops. Not letting you know where it stops on it. That's the topic of my story.
Oh,
The story is what do you
yeah, that would be fun.
You think I would try to get out of this? Shoot Jackson ammo.
It's like the Wheel of Fortune. You spin the wheel and you always lose one turn. Yeah, that's right.
We talk about that fundamental states you got coming here and all the other funny stuff. We're all friends here. You know everybody. Okay.
You cannot egg me on.
Don't let him goad you.
I mean, I already released your secret out to the world. We all know now. There are definite body, spiritual, and psychological benefits to coming to this group.
I know, I'm getting them. I keep coming back. You think I come back because it's fun?
People asking, what did we talk about? It's not an easy thing to answer.
Nothing. It's pretty easy. What is that? Nothing.
Knocking the train off the rails.
Looking at the day something. I think one year
You ever meet him again?
No, I never had the privilege of meeting Werner.
No, that's funny, nothing like that.
No, a friend invited me to a LifeSpring introduction,
Mm.
and I got thrown out.
You tell.
I don't even remember it that well.
Mm.
that must have been a long time ago.
Yeah,
Well, that's why I set Maine off, huh? Right? If I'm right. That's
yes,
the
I think so. Yes. Hmm.
I like the driving around with, must have been good at it.
one. Look like spring.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
I heard they locked you in.
It was just like landlocked and more hardcore. I'm down. Whatever you got, dude. You want to yell at me? Call me an asshole? Bring it. Well, I regret eating those cookies.
You want some
Yeah.
more regret?
That was quick.
I just feel like that. But at least I'm not that hungry anymore. I'm mildly hungry. And I'll shoot it up now.
Yeah, I have to walk right by the pretzel place. And once in a while get better, and you have a pretzel, let me know. That's really tasty.
Did you see that link that I sent you about the new campus?
I did. Yeah, I don't know how interested I'm going to hear like a teaching in English. I just want to like, just go back to the road. Maybe go to school, to advance, check out their statues and
I'm just trying to see if I could see the most fun. The last year I just came by and all the often.
must go to festival.
This was fun.
We're going to get there and go with the temple.
Oh, absolutely.
It's coming on May 16th,
Right.
Tuesday.
Baba Rock, something.
Oh, Bob is coming.
Did you call Jeff or Jeff this one?
Mhm.
How long you going to do?
Oh,
Yeah, should be enough time. Get a few extra things, huh?
yeah.
It's a kind of good game.
I mean, there's all places we're not seeing, like Bethlehem and Nazareth, there's not a lot there. You know, we have pretty much everything I want to see where they're saying.
And
Yeah, I know I haven't heard anything else about it.
So what would you do without filling? Came out of my mouth the other day. I wanted to see if there was mercury in it, just out of curiosity.
Oh,
Yeah. If it releases mercury, then there's saliva on it.
sure. That's what they say.
When that stuff in mercury in his mouth, and it was over the limit, yeah.
Really?
Or like I think PL or whatever is supposed to be in the atmosphere, but that's like in his mouth actually. I was like, it's like, oh, once you can breathe safely, it's like not much to be in your mouth. So,
And he has very few things. I mean, 2 or 3 at the most.
No. Well, there's some more of mine fall out. I shouldn't say that.
and so
Because then the teeth have to get fixed.
I gotta prove everyone.
Well, the one that fell out, that the tooth is going to come out. It's already using that.
I think the composites are pretty good.
This one and then it's better, but great. So, you want to get the anecdote standpoint? How's it going?
Yeah, speak for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't that interesting. It's just that like really nothing's been happening, but interesting things that seem to be like sort of running, or maybe my patience is growing. I just seem content to just do absolutely nothing. There's not even any weird sense of spiritual freedom or bliss or anything company of it. It's just like,
Except when it comes to your life.
oh yeah, I'm like busy doing a class, yeah, it's really good. But yeah, I don't need like, I'm disinterested in life and stuff like that. No, just, like I earlier, happy to sit in the car and do nothing. Happy to sit here and do nothing. I was in the Japanese class saying it, something along the lines of, well, it's like right there, it's like underneath, it's like underneath. And this one was looking like so hard, what's he talking about? Well, and then like, actually it's like, oh, this shit looks like anywhere in your face all the time. Okay. I see now. It really does put something like underneath this like to be layer of meditation almost. Not really a lot to go on there, you know what to say. Yeah. I will say it's hard to, I don't know if this is the right phrase, but shake the feeling of time. You're always supposed to decide about that and what you can thought up if that was put it that way. And it's like, yeah, I can rationally see that, like, yes, whatever future, like, that's just an idea, and then you move into it, so to speak, or the now changes into it. It's just the same thing, like, tomorrow will just be today. It just seems like the sort of trajectory, if you will, of mental projection seems to be so, and it's just like, it just seems like such a great concept a lot of the time. I guess maybe it's causing untold problems I'm unaware of. It's such a deep thinking maybe, but
Well, I don't know anything. Um,
Well, your answer earlier, surfing time is something along the lines of like your belief in time is what perpetuates the self.
it's always very tricky to assign or accuse anything of being a principal culprit that becomes the cause of something else.
I guess I feel like taking it so seriously.
Well,
Common stuff in there.
yeah, I mean, you hear, let's say you hear a chimpanzee babbling about things, um, some of those things might strike you as being curious or interesting or disturbing or whatever. And so, it's natural to give them some attention, swirl it around a little bit. Finding an object marks time. But the habit or inertia of conceiving can relax sufficiently so that even in the midst of what one might refer to as present experience, no object is found. And so the sense of psychological or geophysical time can become very light. Let's say you have an idea about what or whom you are, or what experience is. And that idea, however subtle, marks time. Because it becomes a defining principle. So it's a found object. The defining principle is a found object. And that is what marks time. That's what the so-called self is made of. You could say the all too common presumption that there's something other than you marks time. We think we've found an object in the field of vision, or an object in the field of sound, or touch, taste, smell, or an object in the etheric realm of thinking, association. So it's through the presumption of objects found that connote or denote the self that has found them. An object found suggests a finder. That's time.
So is time really like that? Can't you just be like, oh, I sit in the internal present to the objects?
Of course. Yeah.
So not, it doesn't necessarily know time, just most of the time, for lack of a better phrase.
Well,
I guess, I mean, it would involve like the destruction of the construction of the present moment as well, like,
yes, but that's instantaneous. So it's not a deconstruction, because a deconstruction would
Yeah.
suggest
yeah,
a kind of chronology of,
yeah,
less and less.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, you've never actually occupied any moment, let alone the present moment. Only the myth of mind suggests that's the case. Through what we refer to as memory. We're too busy remembering the myth of ourselves than actually being present. So we blot out the illumination of the present by remembering ourselves, which is replaying anything we think happened, which includes what we think is happening now. It's easy to recall what happened 5 minutes ago, or 10 minutes ago, a day ago, or perhaps 10 years ago. It's trickier to see that you're actually remembering yourself now. Sensation that you have, that, or thought, or whatever, that you assign some kind of characterization to, you're remembering yourself. So memory is not necessarily of the past. Its memory is really of the present.
It's just preoccupied with itself, I guess.
Yes, that's right. See, the movement of metaphor and association and assignment is memory. And it's memory of what we think the present is. But if you really give, let's say, your attention to what might be referred to as the present or presence, you can't say anything about it. It's absolutely beautifully, nourishingly empty. What you comment upon is an idea. You can't actually comment upon what's actual. You can comment upon ideas. Comment upon ideas, comment upon ideas. So the creation of the past occurs right now, not prior to now, which is interesting. The present turns out to be the past. Like when does the past stop being the past, and when does it catch up with the present?
When it's passed out.
It's always the past. It's always the so-called present. When does the present become the future? Always. You can't actually find a boundary field between what you call the past, what you might refer to as the present, and what you could be anticipating or not and refer to as the future. Where's the gate? Do you remember passing through the gate from the past so that you could get to the present? And then passing from the present into the future, which becomes the new so-called present, instantaneously also becoming the past? You can't find any boundary between the three.
Time tunnel.
Yeah?
That makes makes sense. It's just makes me laugh.
It would.
It does.
If you have any fucking sense, it would make you laugh.
It does.
Yeah.
I just think it's so common sense, but it's so wild.
When does your recollection of the past stop being your recollection of the past? Even what you are presuming is occurring now is a recollection of the past. Because you can't say what's happening now. And any metaphor that arises, any assignment or accusation that occurs, it's already too late. Continuum of past, present, future doesn't quit. And yet we are capable through, dubious means of constructing what we think is a clear delineation between what happened a moment ago, what's happening now, which is always a moment ago, and then what's happening next, which is happening now, which is a moment ago. It's absolute Twilight Zone.
So anything captured is there's a delay, and it's always about the past, even if it's the future, thought about the future.
Well, it's very hard to say when it occurs.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a delay? No, of course there is. I can't. Yes, of course. No, there can't be. But wait.
Well, something tickled an event, and the event popped out. It emerged. A thought, a notion.
But that's happening now.
Being enamored by the immediacy of
Yes.
even being out of your mind.
Okay. Are you recalling things that happened prior to now?
I'm doing the same thing. I'm reflecting on
You-
states.
Yeah, but you can't be, really. You can only be expressing what appears to be memory of something prior, presently. Nothing actually happened before now. You can't find it, even if you take out old photographs.
Like when Ryan says, tell your story, and I'm thinking, my story is right now. So my story is, oh, there it goes. Oh, my story is, there, it's gone. Oh,
Yep.
There's my story. Oh, it's gone. Oh.
That's right.
It's constantly, it's like.
The only way to
That makes
have
sense, I'm
the only way to have a
Here's my
so-called
And
story,
before you even can get the words out, it's a new story.
it's that quick. Might be faster than that.
Right.
So what you can then begin to discern is that, oh, this is really just a streaming forth of association.
When do kids, I mean, it's almost like it's innate, like you should know this, right? So when do kids lose this? Or when could you?
You can find varying opinions on, so-called human development. They're not true, but you can find them.
But even the assertion of true and not true is kind of like presumptuous in a way. Right?
Yes, it has to be. Yep. If you lean too heavy on not true, or if you lean too heavy on true,
I guess you're better off declaring something not true than something true.
yeah. Up to a point, negation has a certain advantage.
Netty. Caught in the netty.
And yet whatever can be found, discovered, or felt has a positive nature. It's joyously luminous. So you can go netty to the extent that that serves you, or you can, enjoy the throbbing nature of radiant presence for as long as that serves you. One's not necessarily better than the other.
I guess if you hang too long in any one place.
Well, you can't actually, but you can fool yourself, or consciousness can fool itself into imagining that it's overstayed its welcome.
I'm just thinking of Forrest Gump, tired of running,
Mm-hmm.
everybody following him. Because there's this phenomena. They're looking for deep meaning. He goes, why you stop? I'm tired. I want to go home. Why are you running? I don't feel like running. Brings a smile to that part of my mind that is always looking for something,
Yes. That's right. See, necessity and self are the same.
I'm thinking of the bare necessities and those bears dancing around.
Dancing bears on a blotter.
That's what's interesting sometimes is free associating. It's like you're not going anywhere and you're not looking to go anywhere, but then one synaptic experience leads to the next and to the next and the next.
Yeah, that's right. Synaptic leapfrog. Mm-hmm. The culture at large doesn't do that great a job of emphasizing presence, sans conceiving. You could say it does the opposite of that. It encourages constant distraction and constant entertainment, and the pressure of becoming. The civilization is marked and perhaps marred by the myth of more, the myth of becoming, the angst of misunderstanding. So then deceit and exploitation, becomes the way to get ahead. It's only extreme pathological insecurity that pursues control.
Where do you think that impulse comes from at the beginning? When that grabs something and manipulate it or control it or be in charge of it,
Well,
master it,
yeah,
overcome it,
Hard-
dominate it.
hard to say where anything comes from. It would suggest that, we things, the civilization, might be better off in some other condition. And of course, you can become and progressive activist in so many regards these days, or if ever, always. Where does anything come from? This appears spontaneously in whatever level of complexity it appears as. The pursuit of a history or a cosmology or a genesis of creation is just part of the, the ruse of deception. As if you were here before now, or as if the earth were here before you were born, or the inflation began 14 billion years ago. None of these are true. I mean, everything we've been told by scientists, politicians, priests, gurus, educators, bobbleheads on TV are all lies. Including the physicists. And for sure the CDC. If you were asked to pause for the cuckoo, the mindfulness
Yeah,
cuckoo,
They're tweeting inquiry.
I mean, what cosmology would you cobble together from the resources at your disposal if you hadn't already been duped into believing everything that everyone told you? What would you say about the presence of experience without placing it in a second-hand context?
If I'm counting on the senses, it would have a sensory nature to it.
Yeah, most would agree with that.
Like looking at how life starts tiny, grows, matures, it gets old, and then it dies. If it's a bug,
That was quick. Mhm.
yeah, bugs are quick.
Yeah.
Like, kids looking at bugs, and then looking at life and going, "Oh, yeah, I guess I'm part of that."
Well, it's,
But that's depending on the five senses
yeah,
to make reality.
yeah.
I think the question is bigger than the five senses. Pretty sure.
It might be more inclusive than what we refer to as the artifacts appearing to the five senses.
Yeah, so it's a space where none of it matters at all. And another space where it desperately matters.
Tends to fluctuate.
Like I was at work the other day with a clearing with someone. everything was fine,
Yeah.
and then it crashed.
Oh.
2 other people got involved, in poisoning the well.
Hmm.
But then again, there's the story that just emerges from it,
Yes.
and I play it back, and then it repeatedly upsets me.
Sure.
So why would I keep playing back stuff that upsets me?
Yeah. Nobody asked you.
Yeah, I'm taking this self a little too seriously.
That's what it's meant to do.
Take itself seriously,
What else would it be without it?
and then discover that it really doesn't need to be that serious. I really had myself fooled for a number of years.
Good for you. Well done.
Thought I was the laid back one.
All right. Well, it's good to have an identity, even if it's a fallacious one.
Oh, it's constantly fallacious. Right?
Mhm.
As soon as you land, it's fallacious.
All that can be found is deceit. There's no pristine, sacred reality on the other side of the curtain of deceit. There's just deceit, top to bottom. There's just deception, top to bottom. The seeing of it, the acquiescence. Might open a portal. To something or some not thing that perhaps might be sensed. But if we're worshiping heroes and mutants, then we're always under the influence of becoming. We're always secondhand. If I'm worshiping heroes and mutants, I'm always secondhand. The Buddha knew better. He had a better experience than this one. Yeah, no, he didn't. Just didn't. Neither Christ, nor Muhammad, nor Allah, nor Abraham, nor Nisargadatta, or Larry Hall, for instance. But you see, the civilization is built on the mythic worship of heroes and mutants.
So they spun a better story.
It appears so. And so we remain secondhand. We remain as beggars to the story that we've spun.
If you think, if you didn't have all the negative, all the stuff that you said, it might not be deceit. It could be something pure.
Well,
If we didn't have
go in, you'll see.
that.
You'll see that even pure is just another whisper of deceit.
I think you were gonna say that.
Yeah. You see, it's the anticipation that there could be something untarnished, untainted, holy, pure, ascended, which is the worship of heroes and mutants that keeps you in the game.
I think it's the nothing. It's just the nothing that's the pure. Because there is nothing.
Well,
How can nothing be a deceit? It can't be deceit because then it's not nothing.
well, yes. Of course, once it's converted into poetry, then it can't help but becoming another element of deceit.
And then it's contaminated.
Yeah. Yes. Right. But that's how the worship of heroes and mutants gets going. We objectify heroes and mutants as being sacred and holy and other and untainted. And then we do the Crusades. See? So all that can actually be found is deception. It can be very rarefied deception. It can be inspiring deception. It can be worthy of worship deception. But once you place some kind of notion on an idealized person, an idealized condition, an idealized reality, then you're a beggar, then you're secondhand. Because that means it's other than you. Not the case. It's not the case. It's just not the case that Buddha or Jesus or anyone had a leg up on this, accomplished something greater than you. It's not possible. Maybe more rarefied. Maybe, had kind of a mutant gene. Maybe it looked like some kind of, religious or spiritual heroism by virtue of, suffering or scaling the palace wall, or whatever the story is, right? Makes it look like they were special, unique, destined for greater things than you or I could even dare hope to taste or accomplish.
Yes.
And if not the persona, then, Brahman, the Tathagata.
It just occurred to me that it's sort of a behavioral conditioning in a way.
Absolutely.
If you conform, you just might get close to, you might reach that. I always like the contradictions. It says, you're going to listen to Jesus. If he says, you can do it in greater, I can hear that easy. Because then it takes the seat that's unreachable to the floor, or accessible.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, what are we relying on as the evidence for, spiritual, religious, or whatever accomplishment? What are we relying on? This big ball of deception is the measure.
You better not measure it then.
Well, measure is deception. Measure is deception. Measure is self. Measure is time. Measure is contrast and comparison. Measure is conceiving. Measure is being without. Measure is the acute insecurity that turns someone into a malevolent leader, like the present political administration of the United States. It's malevolence all around. But that same malevolence happens in a tiny little, whatever this is called, interfaith institution.
You could say malevolence without a charge to it is a catalyst.
If you imagine something has occurred and something else is likely to occur, then you instantly have anything could be held as a catalyst.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but usually something where people react to or feel strongly about.
Well, yeah. I mean, we have all of human history to look to for the undulation of righteousness and the failure of it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we have less couch potatoes now. More people at least with maybe with higher blood pressure.
Yep.
Or depending on what side you're on, they might be selling more beer too.
Yeah.
It is interesting though, the mind as it pursues something and it's getting closer, it feels like it's going to miss something. The person that's minding their own business, doing nothing special, the event emerges out of a mundane space and time. I know that's really thick. I'm conjuring all over the place. It's like mushrooms
Uh-huh.
after a rain.
Yeah. It's like the molasses tank broke and we're all going down.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff in my belly. No, I'm not talking about food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to simplify things, not that that's necessarily advantageous. It might be worthwhile to discover what the cessation of necessity feels like, what the cessation of conceiving feels like. What it feels like not to be pushed around by the imagination of your own future, or pushed around by the imagination of your so-called past. To be released from existential restlessness. That kind of nourishment goes deep.
It's like a good night's sleep where you slept straight through however many hours, 6, whatever. You don't
Yeah.
wake once, your mind's not churning, and
Yep.
it's so peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't even begin to describe it.
No.
You can do that during the day when you're awake too.
Yes. Liberation is innate. It's not acquired. It's free from making any claim. one doesn't insist on the habit of self-assessment or self-accusation, relying on imaginary artifacts. You're not in a condition.
And the question that comes up then, who am I from you?
It needn't. The who is another form of claiming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who's asking that?
Sure.
What's asking?
Yeah, those kinds of questions, you know, may have been somewhat insistent in your so-called past, but through association with cessation, they're not so pressing. This is autonomous. Therefore, so-called you are autonomous. You don't have to pass through purification or explanation or teaching or hierarchy or authority to be what this already is. It's innate. Now, of course, in the course of one's life, there are karmic agendas, hormonal agendas. The future is calling. You're going to discover how it will be fulfilled in you through your education, through your family, through events and circumstances, who you fall in love with, who you have a family with. Whether you live long enough for those things to occur or be satisfied. You could say at some point in the imagination of your life, you don't have as much of a future as you thought you once had. You've arrived. Your future becomes your present. And so there's not a ton of, let's say, uncertainty or anticipation or hunger or thirst for more or better or different relationships or exotic places or more drugs to take or more books to read or more movies to see or more credentials to acquire. At some point, your future arrives. Maybe that's disappointing because, yikes, you might be getting older. Or might be quite pleasing because it's like, oh, good. I don't have to concern myself with all of the uncertainties of the imagination of my future. I can just rest in inconceivability. In a sense, you have to, or tongue-in-cheek, you have to grant yourself permission to rest in inconceivability. Otherwise, the restless imagination of your as yet unfulfilled future will distract you. Hmm. It wasn't possible to rest in inconceivability when you had plenty of future left to live. Because it would feel like you were kind of cutting yourself off or selling yourself short somehow. But now, whenever that now arrives, oh, well, fuck my future. I can rest in inconceivability. And you do so, you could say, concomitantly with the withdrawal of placing more and more loyalty in heroes and mutants. You're right, you have to kind of constructively withdraw from the myth of the civilization so that you can rest in your own autonomy. You're always wondering if someone's having more fun than you. and you're going to go find them. You're going to go get that fun. No one should be having more fun than me. Quiet down.
It's a little warm. Yeah, that'll cool things off at the way. Yeah, go ahead. That'll take about 3 minutes. No.
With the pursuit of fulfillment, one guarantees to more or less remain unfulfilled. Because then fulfillment is a codependent, dysfunctional relationship with more, other, better. So then one's autonomy now has become dependent on circumstances and events, on some kind of joy or accoutrement to be found in someone's future. So that is how one persists in being undernourished, malnourished.
It wouldn't be autonomous anymore.
And it's no longer autonomous. That's right. Now you are dependent. Yeah. You're dependent on, let's say, the good graces of God, or luck, or faith, or hard work, or elbow grease, or deceit and manipulation to get what it is you think you deserve, or want, or need. So you remain in a codependent relationship with circumstances and events. And that's not going to bring you anything. Even if you were to succeed at all of the distractions and entitlements that you covered yourself with, even if you were to succeed at all of those, you'd have nothing to show.
In the mind, we think of more things.
It would. It always does. The sense of creaturehood, identification, time, responsibility, accountability, those are all the it's all the outgassing of conceiving.
It's the what?
The outgassing of conceiving. Symptoms of conceiving. We wonder, why can't I be happy? Why can't I be loving? Why can't I be loved? Why can't I? Why can't I? Why can't I? Well, because you're a buffoon. You're a mythic extrapolation of the myth of conceiving as self. So your closest compassion or companion or both will be undernourished.
I think your closest companion is your misery.
It is. Yep.
It loves company.
It does.
Oh,
Uh-huh. That's why all the Aborigines gather around the fire at night.
yeah.
I like that guy, the primitive technology guy. He actually like is using some like Aboriginal like artifacts to eat. This YouTube channel, he goes out and like just with like nothing and like makes like stone axes and builds a hut and he's like making clay pots and like doing all this like primitive technology stuff. But
Nice.
then he actually has like he finds like literal like Aborigine like artifacts and he's using them to crush nuts and make whatever bread and he's like baking like wild almond bread or whatever something.
Uh-huh.
I like that channel too.
That's far out. Yeah.
I wonder, while he's doing that, if his mind is thinking, oh, I can't wait to get home and get a hot shower. Oh, like how much
He spent
is his, what I'm saying, is his brain operating like a human being brain, or is he so intent on what he's doing that he's
Yeah.
almost in a state of
Yeah.
like,
Aboriginal bliss.
probably hypnotic, I would imagine. He's been doing it for 5 years. He's kind of insane. He's made like 5 houses. He's like made like all these tiles. He's made like he made a forge. He was like smelting iron that he like dredged out of the stream. Like he spends so much time out there.
Hmm.
He's not doing what he's loved. What he loves. I have no idea why he's out there.
Industrious.
well, I'm just thinking because he's not surrounded by all this, I don't know, for lack of a better technology
Yeah,
or
right.
TV and radio. When you pump gas and there's like music blaring, it's like
I feel like getting out the duct tape.
constantly, because he's out in nature, his brain,
I bet.
I don't know
Oh,
what it
yes,
is.
yeah. Just sit in the jungle for a while and calm down.
Yeah.
Probably much of the appeal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in that TV show Lost, he's there with the loom leading that like I don't know what you call it. And the one dude's like, oh, looks like it's taken a long time. He's like, that's the point.
Yeah, so they're trying to reach some sort of a production quota. Yeah, in a smaller way, the rhythm I had at the cottage, and gathering wood before the winter and burning it, and it felt like being warm. Well, not burning it, and feeling, enjoying the adaptation to the cold.
Hmm.
There wasn't a whole lot of future past stuff going on. There was an immediacy to it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of reflected and said, there's too many folks who could relate to this. No Janes in this world. What, 17 degrees inside? It was one time. Didn't feel like making
It seems like there's some more manual stops and brake pedals too, maybe.
It's like the Samoyeds. They go a little nutsy. They don't get enough exercise. But if you work on them, have them pull sleds and do stuff, they're as happy as anything. Yeah, there's a certain sedentary element that works against us. You don't necessarily mean sedentary in a meditative way. Well, I mean, some could see that as sedentary. Can't meditate all day, can you?
Try stopping.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe doing a week-long solid retreat as a vacation. Get a couple weeks of vacation to use this year, and
Good idea.
that might be a nice, relaxing way to spend the week. Maybe it'll make me go crazy, even who knows?
It's very nice.
And then,
Sustained sitting and walking practice. Very nice.
then go to a class in off the road. Yeah.
Get you down back up.
Let's say we go to a music hall and we're looking forward to certain classical pieces being performed by gifted musicians. So our attention and our anticipation is honed to receive the intricacy, the dynamism,
It's a good analogy.
the nuance and the timing of the performance. Do we give that same quality of attention to what's present? We don't see what's present as being of the same or perhaps different quality of performance, where whatever is appearing as thought or sensation or sound is symphonic. We don't derive the same pleasure or nourishment from the symphony of present experience.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
It's good to be able to do it once in a while. You must have seasons tickets.
Oh, jeez. I didn't give them up for the world.
But that's part of the dance, right? I'll go put on my nice clothes, make sure I have my tickets, maybe go out to dinner, then go to the theater to, right, enjoy the event. But same kind of availability to so-called ordinary experience is impossible to find, because then I live with restlessness and becoming and stories and mental distractibility. I'm not kind of sitting in my theater seat, just enjoying whatever silence or gesture or tonality that nature or reality has to share with me. I'm consumed with the imagination of myself. And I live in an ocean of distraction and irritability, psychological time, becoming. These kinds of conversations or yoga inquiry, call it what you will. This is, it's about listening to and enjoying the symphony of yourself, the symphony of what's present. Having enough patience and maturity to rest in the spaciousness of it. In the pause. And there's a lot to be found in the pause, in the spaciousness of one's own quiescent availability. It's like cue the breeze, cue the door. Whatever is arising, whatever can be felt or discerned is right on time. So we become released from the habit of becoming and the quarrel that we have with it. We we become released from contrivance. In the midst of the, ongoing display, symphony of consciousness, there is cessation. Neither is absolute to the dismay of the other. Softening of self-identity. There's not much sense in pining for an enlightenment event. This is the enlightenment event. This is liberation. It always has been. You can see for yourself the wonder of the cessation of necessity, the cessation of becoming. You see it for yourself. What would be the point of saying you can't use the Buddha to find the Buddha? What?
Yeah, it seems pretty crazy. It's like, yeah, there's the Buddha. We found it. We found it. Worked perfectly.
It worked. Contrary to your advice, it worked.
How long can it stay in a container?
Hmm.
Not very long.
Talking with a friend from California this morning, and he's been an ardent and well-schooled student of Buddhism in its many forms, and enjoyed the company of all kinds of teachers of varying degrees of skill. Feeling that despondency that you can feel when you realize you can't accomplish this, when you don't have the verve and the constitution to pass through the fire and the ardency of, deep Buddhist practices. But still you imagine that is the proper path for your fruition. Yeah. So we spent quite some time on the phone looking at the great karmic wonder that's been his miserable life. And we can all say that. And the delight of being released from the lock and key that one's own mind holds one under, and penetrate the myth of heroes and mutants.
Did he get it?
He did. Yes.
It's a money maker. I bet you spent a lot of money.
Yeah, his fair share. Kind of a disability guy. So he hasn't blown a ton of dough on all this stuff, but more so than money, a lot of, years. Right. And, a lot of years of affliction and doubt and aspiration and practice and failure and, suffering 101.
Is he listening?
I doubt it, no. Yeah, so we, stirred the pot and threw a little sprig of whatever in there from time to time, and he was able to relax from that kind of intensive urgency that he is capable of having, for despondency. But that's a good sign. I mean, the measure of your despondency is also a measure of just how sincere and motivated you are, right? That this misery comes to some fruition. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so despondent.
So misery is a catalyst in a sense.
Yes, absolutely. The despondency and the energy of the despondency was a catalyst that we were both fortunate to rewire into autonomy. freedom from heroes and mutants. Yeah, so it was, quite lovely. It's nice. That kind of, deliverance and release from the myth of one's own mind is, cherished. He's not a seeker anymore. He understands that the accoutrements of seeking are for, younger, more restless, perhaps miserable persons than himself. Now he understands, he's capable of discerning what the cessation of necessity feels like, what the cessation of conceiving feels like. Rest there, right? He's gotten to his future. He's arrived at his future. And so now what's left? More seeking, more drama fields, more pursuit of, retreats and fanciful ideas? No. Simple. Rest in the absence of conceiving.
The sound in the workshop grows more distant.
Yeah. Consciousness moves from wanting to generosity. And as it fulfills itself, moves from the victimization of wanting to the, let's say, embodiment of generosity, well, it just shares by its nature. We don't make any claim for ourselves because there's none to be made. Presence is autonomous. It's generous. It's not withholding. Yeah. Kick this around
Good stuff.
long enough.
Very nice. I could not possibly meditate tonight. Sometimes the mind needs something.
Yeah, it wasn't a good night for meditation then.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you at the next roundup.